warm welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. Since you're here, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share the video as well so that more people get to know about Bharata First. Do subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs several quizzes. You can participate in them and improve your knowledge. If you like our content, please contribute to keep it alive. A small contribution that you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. Let me also take this opportunity to inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center. It's an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com for more details and register now. Experience a whole new way of gaining knowledge. Hundreds are already reaping the benefits of the Knowledge Center. Don't be left behind. Don't miss out. Register right now because there's so much more that we have to offer. All this information along with some must-see recommendations are in the description of the video. Please go through it. And now on to the discussion. Last week, the Delhi Police Special Cell along with Uttar Pradesh ATS busted a Pakistan-organized terror module and arrested 6 people, including 2 terrorists who were trained in Pakistan. The police said underworld don Dawood Ibrahim's brother Anis was part of the team and funding was being done through Hawala networks. The arrests were made during raids at various places in Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Delhi, and also Rajasthan. Those arrested were wrecking cities ahead of the upcoming festive season. The police also recovered arms, ammunition, explosives, and special pistols that were supposed to be used for targeted killings from their possession. In this edition of Big Picture, we will analyze terror modules in India. Joining me on the program today are Yashovardhan Azad, Chairman, Deep Strat, former Secretary, Security and Special Director, Intelligence Bureau. RVS Mani, author and internal security expert, and Dr. Vikram Singh, former DGP, Uttar Pradesh. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Big Picture. Dr. Singh, let me start the program with you. In the backdrop of the Pakistan-organized terror module that was busted last week, how would you look at terror modules in India?
Good morning, Frank and gentlemen. This is not for the first time that such an insidious attempt has been made to give the impression that there are homegrown terrorists. They may be homegrown initially, but the radicalization is Pakistan. Their training is in Pakistan, and I will tell you how. So the first conclusion is that Pakistan is up to its dirty tricks, and the ISI seems to be radicalizing the youth, transporting them. And we will, during the course of our discussion, we'll say how they are transported to Pakistan, further indoctrinated, further trained into small arms, close quarter battle weapons, given training into IED assembly from local material available at the grocers and the pharmacists, and also what propaganda can do, and also to how to build up an umbrella of support, backup, and sleeper cells. Number 3, also build up a column of fifth columnists who, if they are arrested, as in the case of this also, Frank, that there were 5th columnists saying, "Hamare begunah naujawano ko tang kiya ja raha." Our innocent young men are being harassed and hounded. Well, if they are innocent, they are young, there is no doubt about it, but they are innocent is an open question. Apart from the immediate family, I doubt if anybody can vouch, but I will tell you that there are organizations, there are journalists, there are channels who go run the extra mile to give them an alibi that, yeah, these are innocent young men and women who are being framed. As it happened in the case of Batla House, as it happened in the case of German bakery accused Gokul Chaat Sweets case, everybody, in fact, was on one side, except barring a few who said these are innocent youngsters being framed. And it is not only some vested interest. High-level politicians who have held cabinet ranks in government of India, I really don't know what their compulsions were apart from appeasement. They said that they are innocent and being framed by the police. Frank.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, for taking us through that particular issue and this entire terror module, issue that we have in the country so beautifully and so eloquently. Mr. Mani, let me bring you into the picture now. How would you look at this, and why haven't we been able to, nip it in the bud, so to speak? Why do we allow it and let it go till this level?
See, 2 points very, very vital here, why we are not able to nip it in the bud. First is, as our senior most person in the expert in the case already said, there is a group of fifth columnists or vested interests or agenda plovers or whatever it is you call them. They stand up in support for them even after the incontrovertible evidences are presented. Even after that, they stand up and in support of the terrorists, that innocent people, youth, this, that, and all. What will be the plight if what will be their reaction if it on the narration and the hype they will create if they were preventive arrests to stop a terrorist attack? Let's be very clear about it. So that is a big challenge. It is very well. Mr. Azad has been in the IB. He has been a Secretary Security. He knows very well that many of the informations are shared with the agencies, are shared with the state governments, are shared with several people who are supposed to preempt that. And it is not that only those who have been caught are reported. Those who have been there are preemptive attempts made by successes made by the police, which seldom gets reported because of the sensationalist nature of the news industry. Huge number. I myself did, filed affidavits in Allahabad High Court detailing how combination of well-coordinated security agencies of the center and the state have stopped several terror attacks in the country, potential terror. That's a different story, and they don't get reported. So many successes are not reported, but these type of off cases do come. So this is a very, very vital point. Now the question is also the fact that every time you calibrate a strategy to stop or nip in the bud, the Pakistan is able to recalibrate their attack modules. See, let's get it very clear that I have been repeatedly saying that the national agenda of Pakistan is terrorism, and they will keep on recalibrating their introduction, whether earlier the Pakistani non-state actors were acting, now the Indians have been radicalized, recruited, taken to Pakistan, trained, skilled, all those things are happening. That is the difference between 2611, while all the 10 were Pakistanis. Now, many of the Indian youth, innocent or non-innocent, we do not know. Now, but the question is, now the challenge has multiplied because of the Talibanization of Afghanistan. They will be on the same page, and that is going to be a huge problem. The challenges in terms of this, see, special cell has always been, it's one of my favorite units because I have closely interacted with many of them during my tenure in the Home Ministry. Special cell has always had a lot of successes we do not share. But the question is again, now the level of, to nip it in the bud, now with the challenges multiplying both in magnitude and the spatial spread and the 360-degree attempts they are going to make, we read huge investments in these type of intelligence setups of the state government in terms of skilling. See, drone attacks is a new challenge. To counter that, there have been several challenges. A total recalibrated, huge investments have to take place in terms of all sorts of ways where to how to attack the stop this counter-terrorism business. Absolutely. So that is also going to be. Thank you, Frank.
Points taken, Mr. Mani. Mr. Azad, let me bring you into the picture now. You patiently listened in and heard what the other two panelists had to say. Let me talk about this issue of intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing. This time around, at least the way we have read in the newspapers and the information that has come out of this Pakistan-based, or Pakistan-backed terror module is concerned, it seems like there was intelligence gathering. It seemed intelligence gathering and sharing, which is very important because, different units of various police forces across the country came together and took these people down. What is the level of intelligence gathering and sharing that takes place between agencies and between the state police as well, Mr. Azad?
Well, first, let me say that Mr. Mani has given you a fairly good idea that many of the operations which are planned ahead and many of the successes, they are not reported. So obviously, there is a massive intelligence sharing. In fact, the police, the state police sometimes get an overdose of intelligence and they say, what should we look into or what should we not? It's like, finding a needle from a haystack. Now, this is a good operation of Delhi police. It's an excellent cooperation between the intelligence agencies and the Delhi police. You see, let me give you a perspective on the terror module so that you get an idea of the intelligence. You see, I'll just compare for you the first decade of from 2000 to 2010 and then 2010 to 2020. You know, I'm talking about 2000 to 2010 because Mr. Vikram Singh ji had a ringside view in UP when, you know, Indian Mujahideen was virtually creating mayhem, the train blasts, and, you know, everywhere they were there till 2013. Bhatkal, their hero, was caught. And again, with excellent cooperation of intelligence agencies. Today, the terror modules have a degraded capability only because of the cooperation of the intelligence agencies and the state police. And therefore, what happens is that the intelligence gathering is a very, very painstaking process. It's a very painful process too. Sometimes you go on for about 6 months and you don't get anything. But sometimes when you're doing it, and sometimes 1 week, you get success. But in all these cases, there has been great successes, and only because of that, the terror modules today have a much, much degraded capability. You see, in 2019, the total number of incidents were 621 compared to 5,554 in 2001. That gives you an indication of the success of the intelligence agencies. But 9/11 was not forecasted. Parliament attack was not forecasted. Mumbai attacks, despite the information which sieved through, it was not, we were not successful. So there is always a touch and go. And I would say today, but our, the counterinsurgency grid is very strong, whether it's in JK. And the terror in hinterland, which we started facing. You see, earlier on, we were defending territories, you know, Jammu and Kashmir, and then, you know, the Naxal areas, 84 districts and things like that. But when the Khalistani terrorism came in, you know, the whole ball game changed. You know, cities became vulnerable, rural countryside became vulnerable. And that's why today the MHA describes terrorism in 4 sections. One is the J&K, second is the terror in hinterland. And I think we are talking more about the degraded capability of the terror modules in the hinterland. And in that respect, I would say the intelligence agencies have done a great job. And the other aspects have also been very well described by Mr. Vikram Singh ji and Mr. Mani, so I don't need to get into it. But intelligence sharing is something I would also say the capability has been certainly enhanced because of our experience. And today, there is a much better intelligence sharing. Though last point, I would definitely say, if the national NCTC was formed in 2009, as you know, Mr. Chidambaram had tried, it would have been a tremendous success. But of course, the states were opposing it. So I would say, last line, degraded capability of the terror modules. And yes, and I think it's a losing proposition because ultimately Pakistan will go back to Kashmir because that is their only bread and butter.
Right. Points taken, Mr. Azad. Dr. Singh, let me bring you back into the picture now. You know, at the ground level, what are some of the biggest challenges as far as the state police is concerned, and what is the way out?
Mr. Yashovardhan Azad has lucidly explained the pitfalls. We are inundated and flooded by the tsunami of intelligence. It's like crying wolf. There are 200 intelligence inputs given in a month. We take it so casually. Okay, you see that, and ultimately goes down to the chowki in charge. You see that, and ultimately nobody sees it. And it is only a very professional organization of professional police officers who can separate the grain from the chaff and gets to actionable intelligence. What is relevant is actionable intelligence. There is a intelligence and there is the intelligence. The intelligence is what matters. Sharing of intelligence. If India wins, all of us win. If Vikram Singh wins, it does not necessarily mean that India will win. Let us collectively ensure, and give the word to the wise is enough. There is no scope of individual glory. There's collective glory and collective victory. I'll give you by an anecdotal. I've only explained to you only in figuratively. 26/11 happened in Mumbai. We had a terrorist incident in Uttar Pradesh. There was detailed interrogation by all the agencies, sister agencies in UP police. Because of the Rampur attack on the 31st of December, in which 7 CRPF constables died, people would wanted to believe that perhaps that was the New Year revelry and they shot at each other. This was the disinformation. But the interrogation after the arrest of the accused, as Mr. Azad mentioned, revealed the sinister plot of 26/11. It is not that I will stop at that, but then subsequently, after about 12 months, some reporter came, said, did you share some advanced intelligence with Mumbai and Maharashtra? But now look at my answer. I think I'm getting old, I don't remember. It is not in my interest to score. It is not in my interest to point fingers. Ultimately, if we fail to do something important on 26/11, it is a collective cumulative failure. We cannot apportion the blame on anyone, on a single person. It was a cumulative failure. But as Mr. Azad had said, he's a thorough gentleman. We could have done much better. Intelligence level, if the neighbors and our enemies are taking it to a perfection and taking it to different level, they have an R&D, they have professionals, they have IT experts. I think we have to be a generation ahead of them. And we have success stories. We have the example of other countries who have a no-nonsense approach, and they say the enemy of this country, wherever he or she is, cannot live in peace. I will not name the country, but they have a saying. The enemy of this country, wherever he or she may be, it may be New York, it may be London, it may be Moscow, rest assured they have a system of neutralizing that person. It is time that we also, I don't say we do that, but it's time that, yes, we have the same level of proficiency and the same level of expertise and the same level of no nonsense. You have to be cruel to be kind. There can be no compromise when national security is concerned. Security intelligence gathering has to be taken to a different level. And sharing of intelligence. Don't try to, we got Sayyid Muhammad Umar Sheikh in Saharanpur after an encounter in which Inspector Dhruv Lal Yadav and 2 constables died. He's the same Sayyid Muhammad Umar Sheikh who was number 3 in Al-Qaeda. And then he was transported after the Indian Airlines hijacking to Kandahar, you may recall. And then from there, he probably sent $500,000 before 9/11 to Muhammad Atta. This is all in the public domain. But I was lucky that I had close cooperation with the IB and we worked together and then we got Sayyid Muhammad Umar Sheikh. My only regret is that I think we should have neutralized him then and there itself. But we did not. Well, it's a folly. Well, one can not cry over spilled milk, but fact of the matter is that yes, he continues to live in Pakistan, murdered Daniel Pearl, the journalist, and also this is the success story of close cooperation between intelligence agencies and the field police agencies. And also I've given you 2 aspects. One in respect of 26/11 and the other in respect of Sayyid Muhammad Umar Sheikh, Frank.
It is because of that no-nonsense approach and because of that, that answer that you gave to the journalists that I consider you to be a legend, Dr. Singh, and I say that openly on the program today, and I really look up to you, and you know that. So moving on from that little moment, Mr. Mani, Dr. Vikram Singh was talking about 26/11 and he brought that in. Now, I just want to go back and look at that incident. Since then, from there till about 2021 now, a lot of water has flown under the bridge, a lot of time has passed. But I can't recall a major terror incident that has taken place in between that time on civilians in our country. There have been Pathankot and all the other incidents that have taken place. They were all carried out on security establishments. What has changed between 26/11 and now, do you think? Do you think that the terrorists do not want to attack civilians, or is something has changed on the ground?
See, 26/11, I was there in the whole night in the ministry and all. I have my take on that. Because 26/11, it was not because of lack of intelligence. I always keep saying that the intelligence or the capability of the police are as good as the politicians allow them to be. Now, I will take you to a statement made by Mr. P. Chidambaram on the 11th of December 2008 in the Lok Sabha. Suo moto statement on 26/11. That was the day of starting of the 10th was the starting date, so obituary reference, so the next winter session day it was. Anybody can verify it, it is in the public domain. He says, intelligence was received and the Indian Navy had sighted the ship in the Pakistani waters. Full stop. Since no further intelligence was received, they abandoned the surveillance, the boat. The question is, again, there are police officers here, or even a normal student of any security would know that once a hostile element is sighted, they escalate the surveillance, not downgrade the surveillance. It's a very basic, elementary thing. So if the politician is scoring points on this type, although I would still I'd bet my last shirt on the table and say intelligence was with us and a lot of things happened. The Indian security top contingent, including many other people, had gone out to the Pakistan where they were taken out by deceit and the agenda was unfinished. That's a different part of the story. So I still believe that 26/11 could have been avoided. Why I believe is that the events which happened later, on the 31st of December 2014, another attempt was made. And since the security people were given a free hand, it was neutralized in the Gujarat coast. So to that extent, let us not take it 26/11 as a real case. There were, I do not know because what was the level of intervention, who intervened, but there was not a political clearance for the police or whomsoever to act. I do not know who received it, what happened and all. So 26/11 is a different case. But apart from that, generally, Mr. Prakash Singh would now say that I should have neutralized him, but I'm very lucky, I'm very happy for him that we continue to have him here. Where had he been neutralized, he would have had to face hell on the media, on the human rights front, on the political front and all. I shudder to think what would have been his plight. So this is something the police officers at the highest level have to live with, and that is a very unfortunate thing for the country. That a matter of national security also, there have been politicking happening like that. Yes, after 26/11 also, German bakery did happen. German bakery did happen, and certain things continue to happen. Zaveri Bazaar did happen in Mumbai. But of late, there have been more targeting of the vital installations. Lot of inputs, including the co-opting with the several hotels. New rules were there. Private Security Acts was enacted. Private security rules under that. All the people were sanitized. They were sensitized about the need for security, professional security, the Private Security Act also. So many steps have gone into it. Chidambaram himself had introduced the mega city policing, which has done a lot, gone a long way in sorting out the major cities which are always on the target. Desert policing he had started. Coastal area policing, I do not know what is the status of that. A lot of grants had gone out to that. So dedicated special focus policing had started. But the question is, that is the reason the security apparatus, the security installation, security apparatus are already always on the radar. Not just that, and that is one thing which will continue to happen. But otherwise, as you said, after maybe the Zaveri Bazaar or something like that, we have not had many security terrorist attack in the vital installations in the civilian areas of targeting civilians. It is certainly a thing. And that's again the question, it reinforces my point, the number of sleeper cells and the number of security attempts, the terrorist attempts prevented by this. Even the police officers are now better trained. The security personnel, the people who are on the help of the job are better trained. They have got much more beat level constable intelligence gathering and all. Very good systems have been put in place.
Right.
These are all very important, small, they are very minor points, but they are very, very important points. So that is where we take it forward. If you give the politician, the security agencies or the policemen free hand, lot of autonomy, make them accountable if things go back. Because the question is, why I say no political interference is, the police has to succeed 100% of the times.
Sure.
There is no margin of error, zero margin of error. So if there is a error somewhere on that, The police officer will be made roasted over coals. It is not going to be any politicians who had been calling up over the phones or giving remote control dictations or all. So cut it out. Expose if there are certain things, because the police has to succeed 100% of the time. That is the basic theme we have to work on.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely. And Mr. Azad, I'm going to come back to you with the point that was being made earlier about, improving our expertise and proficiency, especially from an intelligence gathering and sharing perspective. We know that terrorists are changing and adapting and adopting new technology from time to time, and they are upgrading themselves constantly. How do we need to proceed going forward with regards to intelligence gathering and sharing?
First of all, let me assure you that the intelligence agencies are well ahead in the game. I mean, they are very well matching up with the upgraded terrorist skills and tactics, etc. You'd appreciate in the first decade of 2000, the 21st century rather, see how the bombs were acquiring new capability. The IEDs had come from tiffin boxes. We graduated to that, timers and all these devices. And that was the time when the countermeasures were being taken. A national bomb data center was created, as Mr. Mani would also know, in the NSG. And today, NSG is one of the most advanced in counter bomb apparatus, in counter explosives. And people from all over the world are invited to see their bomb data exhibitions, because this is a critical part of the terror methodology, the bombs, the ID circuits. Secondly, intelligence gathering has reached amazing levels of skill, and therefore today, if you see a degraded capability, it's only because of the advanced skills, tracking of these cells which are operating in various places, and how new methodologies are being taken up every time. One of the reasons why terrorism in the hinterland is also declining is because of the low advantage gained by such, and that is why the focus remains on Kashmir, where there are many advantages, whether it's firing along the line for pushing in militants, etc. Whereas that capability is not there anymore. Secondly, one very important point I'll tell you, Frank, is also, I think Mr. Vikram Siji also mentioned it. While there is one side of this band of followers who are trying to support this kind of thing, there is a huge mass of following on the other side of people who are really getting weary with this kind of a thing. And they are disgusted with this kind of incidents. And that is also being realized. In fact, even in Jammu and Kashmir, if you see, the figures are absolutely low. And one of the reasons is when those people are getting killed, when the J&K constables are getting killed, there is a huge mass of hysteria against the terrorist also. So in terms of upgradation of capability, I'll say certainly yes. But what needs to be done ahead? I think one of us alluded to it. I think Mr. Mani had said it, that today the post-Taliban things have changed. If you see in Punjab, as Mr. Amrinder Singh, Captain Amrinder Singh also said, there is a wave of drone attacks which are coming from the other side. And they are carrying weapons and they are carrying drugs. Drugs is a huge issue. So our capability has to be enhanced. 3,000 kgs of drug was caught the other day at the Mundra airport in Gujarat. That comes from the sanction of Taliban. Now, Captain Amrinder Singh also said there's these drones figures he's giving because these are the ones which have been caught. What about the drones which have already come undetected? So there has to be an electronic wall. There has to be, that is a part of the counterinsurgency grid, and the army is looking into that. But we have to look ahead. You see, the Taliban has switched from the fabled AK-47 to M16s. These are the American leftovers. So we have to be prepared for that. So not only in the intelligence agencies, but security agencies have to upgrade their skills in a lot of fashion. And one of the most important things I forgot is that in places like Kashmir, we have to look into advanced capability and enhancing the capability of the paramilitary over there, sorry, the CAPF, that is the CRPF, because ultimately we have to rely on them. The SOG of J&K is doing very well. We need to expand that. So one of the reasons where you're talking about upgradation of skill is the CAPF in these particular areas.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, time to get quick closing comments now with the best way forward. Starting first with you, Dr. Singh.
Frank, NCTC is a luxury that we must indeed go in for. It is not something that we can put it in the back burner. Constant improvement, constant innovation, upgrading our skills is necessary. Close cooperation and coordination with all the state machinery and all the agencies, as also the central intelligence agencies and sister intelligence agencies from abroad, that is also an imperative. And yes, constant practice, repetition, internalization, till this becomes a second nature and a reflex action. Thank you.
Mr. Mani.
Indeed, NCTC is something of an essentiality, which there is no doubt about it. I have to flag very important thing that the police procurement process should be fixed strict timelines, because if the CRPF or even the state police modernization has to take place, the police procurement takes a very long time. Indeed, 2015 procurement manuals for government procurement have been brought out by the government of India. Still, the timelines are quite long. So the police procurement process is something very important. Police training and police procurement program should not be cowed down by the bureaucracy. Some sort of a very objective, clean procurement may take place with faster timelines. That is very important to be flagged. This is a very important point if you want to really make the security and the intelligence agencies strong and acquire faster capabilities and keep on innovating and upgrading. That's a very, very important issue, dimension. I think none of us touched upon that. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Mani. And Mr. Azad, please close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
3 points. First is the deficit, which is acute. It's about 20% in all the agencies. And in fact, according to a BPRD report, even the Intelligence Bureau suffers from 20% vacancies, which is sad. I'm glad the next point has already been mentioned by Mr. Mani. We always talk about in the DGP's conference. The second point is that the states have to spend more on security. They cannot depend on center all the time. It is important to strengthen the police stations. It is important to strengthen the state police. And we cannot only go relying on the CAPF. And the third point, I'm glad many of the points Mr. Mani mentioned, this is on the eve of Police Reforms Day, which is 22nd September tomorrow, when the Prakash, even the Supreme Court directions, 7 directions to the police to make it more accountable, to make it more, to strengthen its capability is very, very important. We must have a model police act so that police becomes autonomous, strong, and professional.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, what's coming out of this discussion is that Pakistan is the main culprit. Terror modules in India survive only due to Islamabad's help. It's difficult for the administration to completely neutralize these terrorists and their cells as well, because they have support from certain quarters from within India. We have to have a no-nonsense approach. That is when we can end terror modules here. Over the last decade, intelligence sharing and gathering has improved, and our system has become a little more robust. Going forward, we have to improve our expertise and proficiency. There has to be further cooperation between all the internal agencies and their sister organizations from abroad. The police procurement process needs to be streamlined, and all critical vacancies, especially with regards to intelligence, need to be filled up. Now, before I go, once again, let me remind you to like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and share the video as well so that more people get to know about Bharata First. Do subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs several quizzes. You can participate in them. If you like our content, please contribute to keep it alive. A small contribution that you make will be a giant leap for us to keep bringing you this content. Let me also take this opportunity to inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center. It is an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com for more details and register today. Experience a whole new way of gaining knowledge. Hundreds are already reaping the benefits of the Knowledge Center. Don't be left behind. Don't miss out. Register right now because there's so much more that we have to offer at the Knowledge Center. All this information along with some must-see recommendations are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.